Hey, Alli, how likely are you to sell all your things and travel the world?
Shawna, that sounds tempting, and and our guest has actually done that. So we are so excited to have Julie Rose, who's a full-time nomad, minimalist, a solo female traveler, and she's a finance blogger. She's been living on her own terms since 2020, and she's here to tell us how she's done it.
And before we dive in, let's give a shout out to Leanne Jar. Thanks for being a listener. Now let's dive in. Welcome to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, where we dive deep into pressing health and fitness issues facing aging women. I'm Alli Kerr.
And I'm Shawna Kaminski. And together we'll bring candid conversations, expert advice, and personal stories that will inspire and empower you on your own wellness journey.
Today's guest definitely does not live by the rules when it comes to living a fulfilled and fabulous life. And we are excited to have Miss Julie Rose on the podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk about my alternative lifestyle and hopefully it appeals to some others out there.
Well, I know it appeals to me. I'm living vicariously through you, so I'm excited to talk about what you do and introduce our listeners to something that maybe we can't do exactly what you're doing, but maybe we can get a little taste of it, right?
There you go. It might not be for everybody and it might not be for everybody right now, but there's always an opportunity for a little more spontaneity and shake up in your schedule in your life.
So let's jump into what you do, Julie. So Julie I'll kind of throw out, she is a kind of a nomad of sorts. And you do work, but you kind of don't work like most people work. Your life's a little different. So can you just tell us about that, how that came to be, what you're doing with your life now?
Yeah, so it's quite a long story with a lot of pivots and a lot of learnings. But yeah, I'm a nomad. Became nomadic about 5 years ago. I think it's a little unique because I did everything right in my life. I went to college. I, had boyfriends. I bought a house. I had the jobs. I did everything exactly how you're supposed to do it. And I kind of sat there at the end of the day and thought, well, you know what? This is really not that fulfilling for me. And where I really felt the most alive was when I was traveling and when I was exploring and when I was satiating my curiosity and learning and going to all these amazing places in the world, really expanding my horizons. And a lot of us do that here and there, but I felt this dissatisfaction with my life in that it was so full of the typical American way, plus the consumerism and the commercialism and everything else that we're faced with, all the conveniences on a day-to-day basis, that I just thought, hey, I'm going to do this a little bit backwards. I'm going to do what I could have done or should have done maybe in my 20s, and I'm just going to sell my house, sell everything I own, quit my job, and travel. And that was 5 years ago. It started as an experiment that maybe I was going to do it for a year or two and then see what happens. But I have not set down roots since. I am still hopping all around. And while I have started working on a part-time basis, I have really found fulfilling work that is really meaningful to me, and it's not tied to a schedule and it's not tied to a location, so I can be really fully independent wherever I want to be in the world, and just eschewing those societal expectations that, hey, this is what you need to do and this is who you need to be happy. There's a lot of ways for life to look, and I like to share my story online because I want to provide an example, especially for women, that, hey, you don't have to do it that way. And if you're feeling like it's not really working for you, there are other options.
And you made a drastic change. I mean, selling your house, quitting your job. And so how, one of the questions that I've gotten when told some ladies, some of my clients that I'm interviewing you today, and they want to know, well, how can you afford to do that? That was like one of the big questions. So how can you afford to do that?
Yeah, it is a radical change. It was a radical decision. And believe me, it was not taken lightly or impulsively. This was sort of something that was brewing that I had been cooking up for a while. And it all started actually back in 2017. So I had told you in 2020-ish was when I became a nomad, but my journey really started in 2017 because I was laid off and I had a job that I loved. I had this identity that was like very closely tied to my work, and I was very unceremoniously laid off, where I all of a sudden had all of this free time and a severance package, but literally nothing to do. I had no hobbies. I had no interests. I had been working basically since I graduated college and even before that. I just didn't know what to do. I had never had that much time to myself. So I kind of went down this exploration path. I decided to go backpacking in Europe, and that really introduced me to the concept that, hey, I can survive and thrive with only the clothes on my back, the items in my backpack. I don't need to have a full house full of junk that I never even wear or use, that I've spent so much money on. And also just the curiosity and the excitement and everything that I experienced along that way was really moving and meaningful to me. So fast forward, I get back to the States. I had probably used up all the money that I had to go on this trip, even though I was budget traveling, and I found myself in this place of financial insecurity. I had really not prepared for this layoff because, like, which of us do? You know, it's an unexpected thing. A lot of us are living paycheck to paycheck, and I had to very seriously look at my finances and my purchase decisions. So I had made a lot of the classic mistakes, and I am going to call them mistakes, of let me buy a new car every couple of years, trade in my old car, get nowhere near to what I paid for it, get myself a new loan, and all the other bills that come with the car, all of the shopping, all of the keeping up with the Joneses that we are expected to do, that we have received all these marketing messages to do. So I had fallen into that trap, really kind of tied to my image and what was expected of me. And I had to have a rude awakening that, hey, I was out of money. So I had to go on unemployment. Luckily, I found a job, and I decided I was never going to put myself in that situation again. I was never going to put myself in that predicament again. So I made a lot of radical changes. I chopped my spending. I very, very aggressively saved. I did things that most of us probably wouldn't do. I took on side gigs. I worked a lot. I started doing things like waxing myself and, things that some of us women would just not do. And I also did something a little bit crazy, that here I had this house, I was living in it by myself, that I rented it out to families while I moved into a studio backyard apartment. And I did that for months. And I made these changes that some of us wouldn't do, but they had these snowball effects for my finances. I kept on saving. I kept on doing these side hustles. I didn't shop. I sold a lot of things. I did sort of extreme measures, but it was all about prioritization. And so with that, and saving every bonus and taking full advantage of every opportunity I had, I ended up saving, I don't know, maybe about 40% of my salary over 4.5 years. So that got me to a point where, think about it, if you don't spend your whole salary, you can basically spend that in another year. You can spend that later on. You can invest that. And when I sold my house, I made money on my house. When I quit my job, I started spending on my income from years past. And so I've been able to create this bubble for myself, where I call it barista fire. That's typically the term, where I have financial independence, but recreational employment. So now that I work and doing that fulfilling work that I love, it's very part-time because I've made it a priority to preserve my free time. I'm drawing on my investments as I need to, and I'm earning here and there. But above all, I'm really protective of the freedom and the free time that I have. And combine that with traveling in low cost of living countries, it's amazing how far your dollars go. I spend less traveling the world than I did living a normal traditional life in a house in the United States.
We're going to interrupt this interview for just a second because we've got something we want to make sure that you know.
If you're struggling with your health, with your fitness, if you don't know where to start or you know what to do and you're not doing it, we're here for you.
And all you need to do to get our help is to reach out to Shawna and I at our email, sapodcast23@gmail.com. And we're happy to help and we will be in touch. Now back to the show.
When you sort of started this quest after you came back from your first backpacking trip, and you really went on this financial journey of saving and making financial changes, did you have a vision of what you wanted to do, or you just decided, I need to cut back on spending? How did that come together?
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't have a specific vision. I just knew that things had gotten out of control. Looking at my closet, seeing shelves overflowing, seeing that there were things I hadn't even worn, that I was still somehow keeping, cabinet. We have a tendency to fill up our houses just because there's space. We have a tendency to, hey, that's a cute outfit, even though I have 15 other black shirts. Let me just buy that one too. This is what we've been programmed to do. We don't typically replace. When we buy something else, we typically don't get rid of something. We just accumulate. So I just knew, hey, things were out of control. If I was able to live out of a backpack wearing the same things for a month and being perfectly fine, why did I subject myself to this? And I just knew, okay, things have got to change, with the idea that, hey, this is what really excites me. This is what I really enjoy. This is where somehow, I had goals when I was younger. Oh, I want to live in a foreign country. Oh, I want to learn how to do this. Oh, I want to, go here. And I had those kind of loose goals, but I never knew really when it was going to happen or when I was going to maybe achieve it. But those have materialized. I have learned how to sail. I have, lived in a foreign country. I am learning another language. So all of these things that I had this is something that I want to accomplish someday, instead of what most people, when I retire or when I have time or when I blah, blah, blah. I'm making that happen now. And 4.5 years in, when I finally was like, hey, I hit a landmark number. I think this is it. I basically had to kind of call it, and the timing felt right for me. And it wasn't that, the desire to do this was so strong. That wasn't the trigger. It was actually the desire to not do what I'm doing anymore. That was the trigger. I just couldn't keep living the same day over and over. So
and that's gotta be tough and I'm thinking of our listeners, there's you took a risk. I mean, that's a huge risk. And I think that backpacking trip, I'm guessing, gave you a little bit of courage and a little bit of confidence, maybe that early on, that, okay, I don't need all this stuff. And then but making that call, were you terrified when you how did that happen? Walk us through the process of, all right, how do you end it? How do you end the life that you're living and start this new life? How did you do that?
Well, I don't know if this is kind of like a personality quirk that I have, but when I make a decision, I'm like, this is it. I put on blinders and I'm like, autopilot, robot, okay, here's my checklist. Which is really what it was, is as soon as I woke up that day and I said, I'm going to sell my house and everything in it. I basically had 5 weeks, 6 weeks to get out because it sold in one day. Then it was like,
Wow.
well, I got to start listing my stuff. I got to go to the consignment. I got to do a garage sale. And it was just like, let me knock these things off the list. And I actually, thinking back, I think I blacked out. I don't
It was
remember.
a blur.
I don't remember certain aspects because I was just like, gotta get this stuff done. But I have to tell you, I have never looked back and thought of anything that I got rid of and thought, oh, shucks, what happened to that? Like, one, everything is replaceable. There is not one thing
Mhm.
that's not replaceable. And even memories live in your mind. They don't live in the object. And hey, if I ever get to the point that, oh, I do want to have a home base again, a formal place, a resting pad, I'll decide where that is and I'll go ahead and go through those steps. But imagine putting things in storage for 5 years. No.
Yeah. And so tell us about, so you've been doing this for 5 years now. What have you learned? How have things changed from the first year when you started until where you're at now?
I mean, in countless ways. It's sort of hard to even mark what has changed because think about it. You wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, you can't tell what new wrinkle you have from day to day, or you can't tell different, how the different hairs on your eyebrows are sprouting up and things like that. I Things have changed for sure, but I can't really say what exactly, besides that the more that I've practiced, the more that I've kind of honed my skills, it has evolved. And I think, going back to your earlier mention about, hey, I got confidence during that 2017 trip, is all of that was practice. And this is what I tell people who are considering something like this. If you have an opportunity to take a sabbatical from work, if you have an opportunity to go on an extended vacation, not even an extended vacation, a short vacation, or somewhere just a little bit that intrigues you, that maybe you're like, hey, maybe could I live here one day? Or maybe I could retire early and live here, or I'm just sick of the USA. You have to practice, you have to dabble. It's like I didn't just wake up one day and 0 to 60. I did a lot of international travel between 2017 and 2020 as well. I was going to different countries, South America and Europe, a couple times a year while I had my vacation time from my new job. It was a lot of practice. It gave me the confidence to say, I can live in a Spanish speaking country and I can, go here for 1 month and just figure out what I want to buy and where to live and what to eat. And I can do all this stuff. And it really started with day one, just dipping my toe in. And now I've turned into maybe an Olympic
Mhm.
swimmer. It just takes time like anything else.
How do you handle being a solo traveler? Do you get lonely? Do you feel safe? How do you manage that?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. And I have a couple examples that I like to share. Um, One, think about when you're traveling with somebody. Think about when you're in a family or a friend group or with your partner. When you go to these places, a lot of times it's, you're interacting like this and the world's happening around you, but you're still interacting with whoever you're with. As a solo traveler, I'm like this. I'm absorbing. I'm taking things in. I don't have any distractions of somebody else trying to talk to me and hang out with me all the time. I'm really taking things in. And at the same time, I have an opportunity to engage with the world around me because nowhere are we in a bubble. Everywhere I go, there are people that I can talk to, I can introduce myself to, or if I feel like, hey, I would appreciate some solitude, then I am comfortable in my solitude. I can read a book or I can, I have people online to engage with. There's so many things, and I think solo travel gives you an opportunity to choose your adventure. And the other thing I like to say with this is that loneliness is a state of mind, but being alone is a state of being. So you can be alone without being lonely. It's all in really how you approach it. And if you are comfortable in your solitude, and if you're comfortable with your own company, whenever you choose to take it, keeping in mind, hey, there's opportunities not to, you'll be fine. And a lot of people have found the confidence with solo travel over time. And on that note, safety, yes, that's something to be aware of. That's another thing that you gain some confidence and some skills with over time. A lot of time, if you project confidence and if you project, I'm not a victim, people won't target you. A lot of it is psychological. These pickpockets or whoever, they're scanning, they're looking for who is susceptible. And if you assert yourself, you don't let those opportunities come easily, you're going to be much better off. And I've written about this before in my blogs, but I think really a lot of it has to do with attitude. And, I can also, I'm very tall. So, whenever there's a old Ecuadorian lady who's like, oh, watch out. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I could like crush their skulls in my armpit, like all the short South American men don't stand a chance. But it's generally about attitude. And finally, if safety is something that you're worried about, there's safety in numbers. There's lots of opportunities to join other traveling women and others out there in the world. Like I said, you meet a lot of people. So I don't think that's anything to worry about.
And Julie, you actually tell us about your part-time job, because this ties in well, I think, with what we're speaking about. Because if y'all don't feel safe, I know somewhere you can go and someone you can go hook up with that'll help you on your travels. So tell us about that, Julie.
Yeah. So the work I'm doing now, which happened really organically, started, I think about 2.5 or so years ago. Obviously, as I was traveling around and I was doing all of this, I was sharing all my stories on my blog and social media. And I had a lot of people say, like, take me with you. And, oh, I wish I could travel with you. Or just like, you do all the cool things. How do I do that? And I thought, well, hey, actually, this sounds like a great opportunity to, one, have some company, to empower other people to do, to get all the value that I'm getting out of this trip without having to do a lot of the work themselves, a lot of the live on the job or learn on the job that I've had to do over years and years. And, I get a lot out of it. So I know other people can get a lot out of it too, that I decided to start hosting group trips. And my first one was a couple years ago. I have slowly added more and more trips. I also have women only trips. So I do one co-ed trip a year and a couple women only. That ratio might change, but about 3 to 4 trips a year. And there you have the safety in numbers. You have the socialization. Hey, if your friends won't go with you, then go by yourself and meet people there. And it's usually really amazing cultural experiences or wildlife exploration, all of these things that people are, hey, this is a bucket list thing. I don't want to wait till I retire. I want to do it now at a price that's attainable to me. And I just like to make amazing travel experiences attainable, because not everybody can just sell everything and pick up their life and move around the world. But hey, if you can spare a week of vacation time or a week and a half, then these opportunities are available to you.
So I'm trying to talk Shawna. She doesn't know it yet, but I'm gonna see if I can talk her into going on one of these trips. Me and her are coming. So tell us about what you have coming up.
I would love that. You're invited anytime. What we have coming up: Turkey. I have a 8-day women's trip to Turkey, which is September 13th to the 20th. And so it's 8 days, 7 nights. and that one's women only. So we'll be spending some time in Istanbul, some time in Cappadocia, some time in Ephesus, and just a really great whirlwind trip to see all the historical, amazing sites in Turkey, which is a jewel of a country. It's one of my favorite in the world. So that's September. I know Turkey is sometimes some of the Middle Eastern countries, the Asian countries that can be a little worrisome for some women who maybe haven't been out there before. They're not familiar with the culture. So we have a small group of us. There'll be no more than 14 of us. So that one still has space. And then also Egypt is in October. So we've got, again, a couple spots left on Egypt, seeing all the amazing sites of Egypt at a really affordable price point. Both of these trips are less than $2,000. So, with your accommodations included, your transportation, most, if not all, of the excursions, a couple meals, things like cooking classes and hiking and a wine tasting and all of these different historical, the admission to these historical sites, and plus, the camaraderie of an amazing group of women, really of all ages too. My trips have gone up to 70 and the youngest is usually around 30. So we've got a really eclectic group, usually Americans, but also I've had some Europeans before. So come one, come all, but really the common denominator is that curious attitude, up for anything, really someone who's looking to be absorbed and really appreciate what they're seeing. So like-minded women sharing in something amazing, making great memories it's really, really rewarding.
And so healthy. This is the Girls Talk Healthy Aging. And we do so often, I think many of us think about, well, when I retire, I'm going to do these things. And I think that you're a living example of how to, maybe, some people have kids. People are in different situations. Some ladies have kids and they're probably thinking, I can't do this right now at this stage in my life, or, with work, jobs. But the importance of not waiting, I think that you really touched a little bit on that. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on women like seizing the moment and maybe some of the experiences of some of the women that you have had on these trips and how they've seized the moment. Can you share if you've seen that?
Yeah. I think I live by the mantra, life is not guaranteed, tomorrow is not guaranteed. One, we don't know what happens to our health or the health of people around us, but also the state of the world. It is extremely volatile. We don't know that the places that we've always dreamed of seeing are even going to be around. The glaciers are melting, like these are places that we want to see in our lifetime. There's animals going extinct. There, who knows what might happen to some of these extremely old historical sites. Like if there's something that we want to see, what are we waiting for? Because it's only going to get more expensive and it's only going to get more difficult and it might not even be accessible to us whenever we say, hey, now's the time. Then I see that time and time again with as I have clients that, oh, well, we wanted to do this and now we have to adjust because of different health concerns. And I saw it a little bit in my dad. My dad, worked his entire life. It delayed his retirement and basically got sick and left my mom a widow because, he never got to enjoy their retirement and they never got to enjoy their retirement. So life is not guaranteed. The future is not guaranteed. We have to take these opportunities now. And really, what are we waiting for? I know, yes, there are circumstances. There are things that we need to work out, but you can be like I did, start cooking it up and making your plan. And in a couple of years, do your experimentation, your dabbling, stick your toes in. And then however long it takes, maybe you go to the next level. And I've seen different things in the women on my trips, health scares, divorces, other sort of life-changing moments that have caused them to sort of say like, hey, I want to seize the day. I don't want to wait for some of these things. And the feedback that I've gotten is, this changed my life. Sure, the sites were great, but it was the people that I was with and other, comments like that is just sort of cements why I like to make these opportunities available, because um, there's just so much to see. And why live the same day over and over when and
Well,
go shopping all the time when you can put that towards something special.
well, I think this is the kind of thing that there's always an excuse not to do it. It's just, the garage needs repainting, or the roof needs to be done, or like you can always find a reason not to go on an adventure. And it's safer to reshingle your house or whatever it is. And so I really love the opportunities that you're providing, because they're really just a short immersive experience that could totally change someone's mindset regarding what am I doing with my time and money? Because money we can always make more of, but time is gone.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately your dad didn't get to do the things that he could have done had he maybe changed his mindset a little bit. You might seem like a wingnut to a lot of people, because it's like, well, what about her retirement? What about this? What about that? But you're living today rather than just being a robot and waiting for life to happen. You're making it happen.
Yeah. I think it's a really important balance. If we delay gratification till the end of our life, at the expense of us now, that never is going to work. Sure, we can't go the opposite direction either. There has to be some balance and a little bit of planning and preparation. But especially in this country, I see so many people just, let me put more money away. Let me put more money away. And at the end of their life, I'm like, you're never going to spend this. And what have you done? You've just worked. You've just worked. And I think that's a shame.
Well, and the problem is that if you don't practice enjoyment, it sounds ridiculous, but you don't know how to do it. People get to retirement and they've squirreled away all these finances, which is great for them, but then they don't know how to spend and enjoy.
Yeah.
So there has to be a little of it along the way so that they can feel comfortable in spending the money and knowing how to enjoy themselves, just knowing what they want to do. I mean, it was a gift for you to be laid off and say, well, what am I going to do with myself? Like, in hindsight, while you're in the thick of it, it's disastrous. But now when you look back, that was probably a gift, because you had to dig into, well, who am I? What do I want?
Yes, that was exactly it. I had to rediscover. I actually went back to childhood a little bit. I thought, what did I like to do when I was a kid? And I joined a choir. I was performing. I started, writing. I started my blog. I started to be creative in all of these ways that I had sort of tamped down on when I was, let's be an employee and let me get my work done and let me make money like a good girl, like I'm supposed to. I had deferred a lot of the dream, like my theater dream and all of that stuff that I was really excited about when I was younger. You see all these people like work their whole life and like, I'm going to paint when I retire. And then by the time that happens,
you're worn out.
Yeah. And you've forgotten how to exactly enjoy what once made you happy.
Yeah, we see this. I know with clients that Shawna and I both work with, mostly with female clients. And I have an 82-year-old who we just put a baton back in her hand. And she used to twirl when she was back in the day. She hadn't had a baton in her hand. She said 80 years, but I'm like, I know you weren't 2 when you did this. So it hasn't been 80 years. And just how much joy that brought her, just having that baton back in her hand. And I think about women that I work with and how they come to me and they have lost that sense of adventure, spontaneity, that sense of fun and childness we've lost that. And it's because we get in that, what we call the rat race or the grind. And then life just passes us by. And none of us are getting younger. And I know that you told me, Julie, you're about to turn 40. So how is that? You're not in your 20s. Some people might be listening to this thinking, oh, well, Julie's, in early 20s, or, she doesn't have anything to worry about. Her parents are probably supporting her, what kind of thing. But no, and you did with the finance stuff and the retirement. It's not like you didn't have plans and that you didn't do work in that area. Like you got your finances in order first so that you could do this. And so going into the year of 40 coming up, what are you thinking about for yourself and the next chapter for you?
Yeah, I know it's like such a milestone. I'm not really scared of it. I think I've made peace, but like at the same time, what's wrong with 40? Like
right?
That just only gives me more credibility for everything that I have to say. Like I have lived. I have done a lot. I have learned a lot. I've been around the block, and I'm proud of that. I think with pretty much everything, it's about your attitude. And, like the age is not a number, it's an attitude or something. It's how you feel and it's how you approach life. So I approach life like I'm a kid, and I say I'm going to play and I'm going to have fun, and sure, I'm going to also do the responsible things, but I'm going to take a lot of breaks and enjoy myself along the way. And I think a lot of us somehow we've forgotten how to still enjoy ourselves. Like you said,
I think some of us too probably don't realize how accessible it is to get out and see the world. I know, like my parents, they've never really traveled. Like my dad, he's hardly ever been out of the state, and so like I don't know that And so that is how I was raised. So it was actually when I went to school for my master's, and I did a Maymester, and I did went to Europe for a semester and did that. Like that was a eye-opening thing. Like, oh, this is possible, and people do this, and there's this whole world out here. And I think that some people maybe that is it. We just don't even realize that this is available to us and how available it is. And people do assume that the costs are so expensive to travel, and you've made it. You said it's cheaper to travel than to live in the U.S.
Oh yeah. I actually publish very detailed budget spending reports on my website every year. Like, sure, I've increased my expenses every year, but I still spend less than I think last year was maybe like 40 some thousand traveling to, a dozen countries or so. I don't even remember where I went last year exactly, because it's been a lot of places in between. But think about it. When you divert the housing costs, the transportation costs of, owning your own vehicle, a lot of the other the conveniences that we all pay for, the fact that stuff is so astronomically expensive in the US, healthcare is expensive in the US. I have gone to the dentist in foreign countries. I have gotten other, procedures in foreign countries. I can get a facial in the Philippines for like $10. Like when you think about how much this costs you, hey, I don't skimp. I'm spending $40,000 or more a year, and I'm still enjoying myself. I'm still drinking wine. I'm not just taking buses and backpacking. I'm in Ubers. I'm flying. I mean, still economy, but like it's about priorities. It's about making choices. And I think so many people don't realize there is a choice. There is a choice, and you can make it. And same going back to, oh, should I live a traditional life? Should I get married? Should I do this? Should I do that? Like, hey, you can be fulfilled if your life looks differently. You can make a choice. You don't just have to do what you're told.
And I know you said you can't remember where all you've been, but how many countries, like how much time do you spend in the US, and how much time do you spend in other countries? You there for like a few weeks? What does that look like?
It varies so much. But really the last 4 years, I've probably been in the US only around six weeks a year. And as I travel around, sometimes it's a month in a country. The longest I've spent has been in Mexico. But that varies every year too. I had one year I was there like 11 months. Last year I was only there 3 months. Um, so it really just depends. How I typically plan my travel is I have these anchor points like, oh, I have to be here for this trip. I have to be there for this trip. And then I have a month in between that I'm like, okay, so maybe I'll just hang out in Greece for a month, or maybe I'll go down to Cyprus, or maybe I'll go up to, I don't know, Georgia, or, it's a lot of my planning is spontaneous, but then a lot of it also is set at these anchor points that I have to plan in advance because I have guests joining or I have other commitments. And it all really, really depends. And this is just something that, again, it took me a lot of practice, but I got good at it. Of course, I recommend to other people to plan well in advance. You get the best pricing in terms of your airfare and other things that you're trying to book as well. But yeah, it's all over the place.
Do you see yourself ever settling down, or will you always have some kind of nomadic lifestyle?
So I never say never, just because I think that is a bad idea. It locks us into something emotionally. But at the same time, I really appreciate nomadic living for a number of reasons. One, I can be seasonal, where that I'm always in the weather that I want to be, in a climate that I want to be, which is not possible in most places in the world year round. So I see myself maybe getting to a point that I'm in 3 to 4 places a year, and then maybe a couple trips spotted around. But that would really be to sort of build more community, build more like in-person friendships. I do have a community in Mexico City, which is the long-term, sort of longer-term place. I live in Mexico, but at the same time, like I'm doing so much traveling that I stay in touch with those people virtually when I'm not in Mexico. And this year I won't be in Mexico. So I like the community aspects of being in a place for a little bit longer, but I also can't imagine really being in one place year round, full time, forever and ever. But never say never.
So, curious, you've obviously pared down your belongings to a very minimal amount. What are a few things that you just can't live without?
Oh, I mean, I think like obviously there's stuff I can't live without, like because I need to be connected, and um but I think pretty much everything else I can live without. I don't know. There's things that I need to be connected for my job and for my clients, but in terms of clothes, in terms of this other stuff that I have, like everything can be replaced. Sure, it sucks when you find like a article of clothing that looks really good on you and they don't make it anymore or something like that. That sucks. But everything is replaceable, and I periodically have to refresh my wardrobe because I wear my clothes so much. But it never.
And that's what they're meant for. That's awesome that you actually need to replace your clothes versus just shopping for the sake of, oh, that's cute. Even though I have 5 of them already. How does that affect your mindset, like living this nomadic lifestyle which means you don't have all the stuff? How has getting rid of the stuff affected you mentally?
I mean, I can pack up wherever I am, I can pack up my stuff and like, just like that. I have probably a greater appreciation for what I have. I think I also have more awareness of consumption and waste. I think I see that, when I come back to the US and I see things and I'm like, oh, like the Amazon truck coming by every single day. I'm like, what if those were consolidated instead of, the packaging and the fuel and like there's things that I'm much, much more aware of, which can be a blessing and a curse. But generally, I think like when I shop, I'm like laser focused. This is what I need. I need a pair of tennis shoes because I have worn the rest down. And it's not about what brand. It's not about like, it's just got to be good tennis shoes. But like, I go in, I buy and I get the heck out. And, it's all very focused on need and utility. And I think like that's how we're meant to shop. We're not just supposed to be like, oh, it's cute stuff. And like, oh, I could use another, like my 50th purse, and I say all of that because I used to be like that. And then when I got rid of everything and I saw this cent, the cents on the dollar that I got back at my garage sale, I'm like, what was I doing?
Oh,
What was I thinking? Like that was money that could have gone to my traveling and my financial independence, and I wasted it. So imagine if all of us looked at our closets that way.
oh yeah, it's amazing when you sell stuff. You're like, oh, I paid $100 for that, and I got like two. So it's not, it was so valuable at the time to us, and then wow,
And
we
yet,
can waste.
was it valuable? Because it's just our mindset. It's like
Right.
the tennis shoes that you're buying because you have a hole in your other tennis shoes, like those are valuable because you needed them.
Mhm.
But I could just have bought another pair of tennis shoes because I like the color, but I didn't need them. Do I really value them? So you're really challenging a lot of mindset issues. And I think that it would be very liberating to have less stuff. So even if people are not going to live a nomadic lifestyle, they still could take elements of your lifestyle to apply to their, staying in one place. And that's probably going to be more people that I hope have years on this podcast. It would be fantastic if everyone became nomadic, or, that would be great. I don't think it's realistic, but I think if people took away the essence of it, that we need less things and we need more experiences, I think that would be great.
Yeah.
I've already started my wish for today. I'm done. Let's go for experiences instead of stuff.
Yeah. Experiences over possess. You don't ever regret the experience, but even when you've had things that maybe didn't go so well, you've still learned from them. But all the shit in your cabinets, in your garage, and it's like, what was that for?
Yeah. And, even I know with my travel experiences, the things that haven't gone well, those are the most memorable. And because when things just go so smoothly, well, it's wonderful, but it's when things go sideways that you learn lessons and you create even more powerful memories sometimes. So there's nothing bad. As long as you live to tell the tale, it's fine.
Yeah.
So if you did have a wish, I already threw mine out. What is your wish for our listeners?
Well, I like to just remind everybody of the choices that we have. Because as a woman, I think we are told we're supposed to be and look and do certain things, hit certain milestones, be a certain way, act a certain way, accept a certain treatment. We have heard this our entire lives from multiple sources, and it is really easy to succumb to that and just fall into the autopilot of, okay, I'm going to go along with that. I'm just going to ride that wave. But it is possible to swim against that current. It is possible to ask yourself, wait, do I want this? Did I pick this? Or is it just what's bestowed upon me? And I think if more of us start asking ourselves that question, we're not going to have these midlife crises. We're not going to find ourselves in these relationships like, what am I waking up to right now? Different circumstances that somehow we've found ourselves in, that we're like, wait a second, I'm not happy. And if we actually ask ourselves that question, one, we can get out earlier, or we can not go down that path at all. So you do have a choice. And I just encourage everybody to ask themselves that question, and not just logically, but emotionally, with your whole body, what feels good, what feels right, what does my gut tell me? Because that is the most powerful essence, the most powerful muscle that we have.
And my wish is that the ladies out there listening realize that some version of this, more adventure, more spontaneity, more fun is available to you, whether that looks like what Julie does or something completely different, and that you go for it. And I'm going to be putting a link to Julie's blog or website in the show notes. Is there anything else, Julie, any other ways you want people to know, things to be able to reach you, or things that we need to add to the show notes?
Oh, sure. So I would love to hear what everybody thought of the podcast and some of the info shared. My website, obviously, is juliedevivre.com, which is in the show notes. The spelling might be a little complex, but I'm also on Instagram at Julie B. Rose. And that's where actually Alli contacted me. So
Yep.
my inbox is open. My DMs are open. So yeah, I would love to hear from people, and of course invite everybody on some of my upcoming trips.
Absolutely. So we'll have all that in the show notes. Check it out.
Thanks for listening. You'll find me, Alli, on Instagram at Alli Kerr Fitness.
And you'll find me, Shawna, on Instagram at Shawna Kaminski. Feel free to pop us a DM with questions and or feedback. If you're enjoying the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, please subscribe and share it with other health-minded women. Ratings and reviews are also much appreciated and help us get our message out to a larger audience.
Until next time, be healthy and be happy.